Welcome, everybody, to We Are Hiring Resume 101. My name is Jana Weiss. I'm the Student Life Coordinator for Global Online. And I am so pleased to welcome our wonderful guest, Felicia Young from Family House Scholars. She is absolutely wonderful to work with, and she has tons of knowledge. She did something similar last year, and we went overtime. People had so many questions. So, welcome, Felicia.
Thank you, Jana. I appreciate it. Again, I am Felicia. I work for this really cool organization called Family Scholar House. We
Oh, same.
provide, it's fine. We provide a couple of really cool things that I want to make sure that everybody is aware of. We have a response center that's open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that response center is open to students where they can call. Think about on a Saturday morning, you open your fridge and there's no food there for you or your family. You can call our response center and find out where the nearest food pantry is. A lot of different resources. Our staff is trained to help you navigate in resource management. So our number is 281 549 8681, and we'll put it in the chat, but it's 281 549 8681. And that response center is open to you and your family free of charge. The second really cool thing that we do, it might not be for you, but everybody knows somebody who fits in this category. So, Family Scholar House, we provide wraparound services for parenting students. So, if you have children or somebody that you know has minor children, you may qualify for our wraparound services and supports. And one of those really cool supports includes supportive housing. And so, for some people, that income based housing can be the difference between being able to stay in school or not. So, if you're interested in all of the cool things, Jana knows where to reach me, or you can call that 281 number that I just talked about, and our staff will be able to get you started, answer any questions that you may have, and so on and so forth. And so, really, really excited about that. All right. So, for today's purposes, we are going to, I always try and give 3 minutes grace at the beginning. And so, it's perfect. We have now done the 3 minutes grace. Everybody should have joined at this moment. So, we will get started. So, today we're going to be together for about the next hour in what I call the meat and potatoes of the presentation. And then we're going to spend that last 20 minutes or so of going over as you create your resume in real time. So I know a lot of you all, or some of you all, may be graduating in December or graduating in this following May. And so finding a job is a top priority. So we wanted to help you in that way by talking about resumes. So I am going to share my screen and then we are going to rock and roll. Since I am going to be sharing my screen, I am going to be off camera. And so I am also going to tell you, if you want to be off camera, please feel empowered to do so. As long as you can hear my voice and see my screen, that's all I require. All right. All right. So again, this is Resume 101. How do you stand out, right? In a really competitive job market. So I have spent some time in HR in learning and development. And one of the things that I have found over time, seeing so many resumes, is resumes matter. People they say things on TikTok about, I have submitted 600 resumes, right? And nobody has called, right? One of the things about 600, there is an echo. Hmm, not sure how to fix the echo. Is that better? Oh, okay. All right. So maybe it's your phone versus me. Okay, feel better about that. All right. As I was talking about, One of the things about resumes are people say all the time, I've sent out 500 resumes. I've sent out 600 resumes. I was on LinkedIn and I did quick apply. We have to keep in mind three really important things, right? Your resume is your marketing tool, your personal marketing tool. It is your way of finding a job that you qualify for. Resumes are not supposed to be sent to every single job that you see just because just because you saw it. For example, I don't have a medical degree, right? So if I see a job for a endocrinologist, I probably shouldn't apply, right? But I'm seeing a lot of resumes that come to me and come to my colleagues for roles that people, their desperation has caused them to want to apply for anything and everything. And that's not the way to go. So we're going to talk about that today, how to apply for jobs that you qualify for, how to apply for, and what does transferable skills mean and all of that kind of stuff. This is going to be your personal marketing tool that will make employers want to meet you and ask you for an interview, right? So it's not a biography. It really is a marketing tool. So for a lot of people, I see so many resumes that have a lot of different things on them that aren't necessarily necessary, right? So let's kind of discuss for a moment what goes on a resume. At the top of a resume, we want the contact information, right? We need to know what your name is. We want to know, how do an employer reach you? That might be a phone number. That's going to be an email potentially. That can be your LinkedIn address. It can be a city. Do not put your actual address on a resume anymore. That used to be the key, but now we don't want that anymore for multiple reasons. But if you're relocating, it might say something like Houston, but available to relocate across the country, or however you want to say it. But your contact information is your name, your email address, your phone number, your LinkedIn. And we're going to look at some examples in just a moment. We also want to see your education. Even though you have not yet completed your degree yet, it should be on there, right? HCC, give me just a second. It should be listed somewhere on there, right? Around HCC and what your expected graduation date is and all of those sorts of things. I'm going to pull up a document in just a second, but I want to go over some of the things before I pull that document up. Resume should also talk about your skills. What kind of skills, what kind of certifications, what kinds of things that make you unique. For instance, I might, because I know Zendesk and Salesforce and I have a PMP, any of those, a project management certification, all of those project management skills would go on my resume, right? There's going to be a skills section that we're going to talk about. I want you to start thinking about your skills as we go through this exercise today, right? We're also going to be talking about your experience. A 19-year-old looking for a job is probably going to be a lot different from a 30 or 35-year-old looking for a job. So we're going to talk about different kinds of resumes today, but think about what your past experience is, whether that's work experience that you've been paid for, whether that is volunteer experience, or whether that's some kind of projects that you have been working on. All of that counts for experience. Give me 30 seconds. My slides aren't moving the way I need them to. Give me just a second. All right. We also want to include, because some people on the call don't have a lot of work experience or maybe not even a lot of volunteer experience, we want to make sure that we are including any kind of activities, extracurricular activities. Are you on student council? Are you on some sort of sports team? Are you in a sorority or fraternity? What kind of honors do you have? What do your grades look like? Do you have a 3.5, right? All of those sorts of things, although they're not required, you can absolutely put them on there to sort of bulk up your resume and show that, let's say you're a student athlete and you have a 3.5. Well, that shows a lot about you, having those two things, right? So these are the major things that go on a resume, and we're going to work on each one of these as we move forward. Does anybody have questions about any of those?
Feel free to unmute or type it in the chat.
Yes, if you want to type it in the chat, Jana will read it for you. I know sometimes people don't want to hop on camera or have us hear their voice, but please feel free to put those in the chat. All right. So, as I mentioned, some of you all aren't going to have any experience, right? And so, not having any experience doesn't necessarily have to be a problem because you got to start somewhere. So, today we're going to talk about something called transferable skills. Transferable skills are these really cool things. They're things about you that could easily translate or transfer to a job related skill. For instance, if you have worked on some school projects with some other classmates, right? That's called teamwork, right? If you've worked on some school projects for a large paper and you had to do a lot of research, or you had to put together surveys, or you had to go and talk to people. When I was in college, one of the cool things that we had my capstone project where there were four of us, and it was a full research project, including going to the mall and asking people to take surveys and all of those kind of things, right? All of those are transferable skills. If you ever worked in retail or fast food, even though we say it's McDonald's, McDonald's is still customer service. It's still time management because all of those orders are timed, right? How fast from the time of order to the time of giving that order out, all of that counts. If you volunteer, whether that's volunteering for a March of Dimes walk or volunteering for at the animal shelter or whatever that it is, all of that can count for things like leadership. Did you yourself lead any kind of volunteer efforts? Did you coordinate any kind of volunteer efforts? You being involved and showing up and doing all of the things still can show your reliability, right? So just because you don't have any quote unquote experience doesn't mean that you don't have oh, I love that. Somebody just talked about they volunteer. Yes, so I love that. All right, so this is an example of some transferable skills, and I hope you all can see it now that I'm looking at it. I may have to change the font real quick. Give me just a second because I want to make sure that
While you're
everybody.
changing the font, there is a
Mhm.
question about if you're going to discuss making your resume an ATS ready. She's getting requests for that.
Yes, yes. We're the resume that we're going to work with today is ATS ready. Yep. So you all are going to get a template that's already been sort of what I call ATS approved. And so that's the one that we're going to work with today. Yes. So as is give me just a second. I'm going to show you all. When we first started, right, when I talked about what goes on a resume, I probably should have told you what does not go on a resume, right? When we talk about being ATS ready and that sort of thing, that was a great question. Thank you for whoever said that. Your picture doesn't go on your resume. Although they make cute resumes, sometimes those pictures get caught up in the ATS system, right? And so we don't want anything that might kick you out of the ATS system, right? And so those pictures sometimes do it. Sometimes when you have too much formatting and all of these sort of um, the word is escaping me. But sometimes the way that your resume is formatted can kick you out of the ATS system, right? So there's a lot of different things that can hold up the ATS. Now, I know for you all, you want it to be cute and you want to be different, but it's really nowadays, we really want you to go from being able to submit it all the way to a hiring manager's desk without being caught up in the ATS system. So sometimes basic is better when we're trying to um, do our resumes, right? So back to our transferable skills. So there are a lot of different things that we can think about when we talk about transferable skills. So when you think about your classwork or your jobs that you're currently working on, whether part-time or full-time, some employers in the job description are asking for communication skills, right? So think about all of the times that you've been writing your papers, any kind of public speaking, whether that's even classroom, active listening, tailoring your message to different audience. All of those are transferable skills. When we think about some employers in the job description are asking for problem solving and critical thinking. Think about all the times that you have potentially analyzed information, the research that goes into some of these papers. When have you been able to make some informed decisions or find solutions? A lot of times we think of something being very straightforward, but transferable skills sort of allow us to, so that it's not so black and white. There are some gray areas. For example, communication skills. When I was in college, I was on the sales and marketing team for my university. I was able to use that for both writing and public speaking and uh, sales and all of those things. Those went under communication skills. When we think about adaptability, think about somebody who is working full time, attending school full time. Maybe you're taking care of an aging parent, or maybe you're taking care of a child. There are ways that we can sort of spin that for adaptability, right? How are you staying focused and productive with everything that's going on? So you all are going to get a copy of this slide deck tomorrow. And so you'll have all of these things that I'm talking about right here, these examples, because I want you to be able to use these later on as you're building your resume. So I talked about transferable skills, but now we got to talk about how do you find your own transferable skills? And the main way you're going to do that is reflecting on all of your past experiences. So think about any and every job you have, whether you were 13 and you were doing newspapers, whether there was an internship that you did, whether required or because you wanted to, all volunteer work, every extracurricular activity. Start listing these things. Jot down on a piece of paper your jobs, your internship, volunteer. Even if you don't have any volunteer experience or internships now, start planning on how can you find some internships or how can you find some places to volunteer. There are always opportunities across the city for nonprofits who are looking for volunteers. There are nonprofits who could use your assistance with marketing. There are some who could use your assistance with, whatever your major is. There's generally a nonprofit somewhere in the city who's willing to take you on as a volunteer. Now that we have your past experiences, right? We want to connect those experiences to the skills that that job description or that job um, category is asking for, right? So if you have a, and I'm going to show you, let me pull it up real quick. I had it up and then I took it down. So give me just a second to put it back up. All right. So I am a fan of
We are
LinkedIn.
not seeing it.
Yeah, I have to pull it back up.
Oh,
So
okay.
I had it up before I got on the call and then I took it back down. So I'm going to share my screen as soon as I can pull it back up. All right. Did it change for you? Do you see my LinkedIn? Has it changed yet? I can't tell if it changes.
Yes, we
It
can
sh-
see your LinkedIn.
Perfect. All right. So as we're thinking about, right, connecting our experiences to the skills that a job is requiring, right? I generally start off on LinkedIn. I go to their jobs at the top, right in the middle of the page, it talks about jobs, right? And so I kind of see what kind of jobs are open. And LinkedIn will pick some top jobs for you, right? And so I'm going to click on so we can see some more, but I'm just going to pick the first job right here. So the retail parts pro, this is how we're going to figure this out, right? So when I'm looking at primary responsibilities, right, what are they asking me to do? If I've ever taken calls before, if I've ever think about somebody who did their work study in financial aid. In financial aid, you are getting people who are coming up to the desk asking about financial aid. You're getting phone calls where you're answering the phone all the time. You are helping people with through customer service. You're doing a whole lot of different things, right? And so I can kind of see on here, they're asking for phone calls and customer service. What else are they asking for? As I'm going through the jobs, I can use my transferable skills to see, even though I may not have ever cleaned a floor before, I know how to clean the house, right? So I'm still thinking of my transferable skills. Communication, we talked about those sorts of things. So as we are going through as we are going through connecting what we've already done to the skills that the job is asking for, we can identify, right, through the responsibilities that they're asking for, any kind of experiences that we may be able to put on our resume to match up with what they're asking for. And there's going to be hopefully a resume 202 potentially where we're going to start talking about, and we may be able to do a little bit of it today, but how do we put this information into chat? What you have done and what they're asking for, putting it into chat and have them sort of help us identify some of our transferable skills. So we want to look at the job description. We want to see what those skills are for the jobs that you're interested in. And then we want to consider any type of different kind of skills that we may have. Do you have data analysis? Do you have communication skills? All right, so we're going to do an activity so we can break up the monotony real quick. I want you to rewrite in the chat, instead of it saying worked at Subway, I want you to rewrite it into a strong bullet point. So if you used to work at Subway and you were going to be making your bullet point for that, instead of it saying worked at Subway, what might a strong bullet point for that look like? and put it in the chat. So instead of worked at Subway, what else could we say? And put it in the chat.
If you want to unmute, you can unmute too. Employed by Subway.
Okay.
Assisted customers with their needs at Subway. Kimberly asks, do you mean as in listing a duty we did at our job?
Yes. So if on our resume, right, we're going to put, of course, Subway, and we're going to put the dates we worked at Subway, and then under that, I have seen somebody put worked at Subway. Instead of just saying worked at Subway, what might be something else that we could make at our bullet point? All right.
Provided excellent customer service in the food industry, employed customer service skills during time employed by Subway.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that.
Food service associated at Subway. I had a job making sandwiches at Subway.
All right. All right. So there is something, thank you all for that. We all interpret how to write our bullet points differently, right? So I wanted to just spend a couple moments talking about what might be a weak bullet point so that what might be a weak bullet point that an employer is just going to overlook versus what might be a strong bullet point that makes them say, they have some really good experience, right? Working at Subway can go either way based on your resume bullet point. So weak is just that plain worked at Subway. Something strong, like some of you alluded to in your prompts, delivered excellent customer service to 50 plus customers daily, and trained 2 new employees, right? Because very often at Subway they bring in somebody new, and because you're already on the line, they have you train them, right, to do exactly what you do. So even though it sounds straightforward, we do want to have some bullet points that have a little strength to them. Yes. Did you open and close the store? That's some leadership, right? If you had the key and you were the opener and the closer and all that kind of stuff, that shows leadership. That shows dependability. That shows a lot of stuff. So yes, all of those are great, great things. As you're crafting your bullet points, the reason sometimes our resumes don't get past a certain point is because when they go through the ATS system, there is a number or assigned to it. For instance, if you apply for a job, it goes through the ATS system, and it may be your score might be 40%, which means you have less than what they need for that role. Somebody else's may be at 80% because that's a closer match for what the role is asking for, right? So being able to craft really compelling bullet points and telling your story on your resume is really going to be the difference between potentially getting that interview or not, right? Each and every resume for your bullet points, you have to use action words, right? So start each bullet point with a really strong action word, which talks about your responsibilities and what kind of impact you make. So instead of saying something as simple as, I took customer orders, right? We really want to say something more like processed customer orders quickly and accurately. And better yet, if we can put a number to it, greeted and served up to 300 customers daily. You see the difference between took some orders and processed them quickly and accurately, and how many? that can be the difference between one person's resume and the next person's resume. We always want to also quantify your achievements. So anytime you can add some numbers, anytime you can add some descriptions to, demonstrate how you did whatever you did, that is always the best course of action. For instance, instead of saying I handle cash and cards, right, at the subway, maintain the cash register accuracy and completed transactions with 100% accuracy, preventing shortages. See the difference between handled some cash and how now I still handle cash, but I was 100% accurate. We also, as we talked about earlier, we do want to highlight what those transferable skills are, right? So as you think about any kind of skills that you gained at Subway, right? You want to use those same skills here. So customer service skills, there's that food preparation and safety part of it. I think Jana talked about that certification that you can get, any kind of teamwork and communication. Most employers in the job descriptions, a lot of them are going to talk about teamwork and communication, a lot of customer service, all of that. Subway, even though it sounded simple because it's just a subway job, but there's a lot of different skills that a person can gain working at Subway. And here are some that you might want to use. And we always want to make sure that we're tailoring each resume to the target job. If you're applying for a retail job, you're going to always want to make sure that you're emphasizing that customer service experience, cash handling experience, inventory management experience. If you're applying for a food service, right? Food safety, the sanitation, the preparation. If you're applying for an accounting job, being able to accurately manage those transactions are important. Even for accounting, making sure that there are some customer service parts to accounting. Especially if you're a CPA, right? So all of this are transferable skills. Are there any questions so far? Jana, do you see any questions in the chat?
Yes. Ashley asks, or states that she was always told not to use past tense, but present tense.
No. If you presently have the job, then you can use present tense. If you no longer have the job and it's in your past, it has to be past tense. So, communicated through newsletters and blah, blah, blah for 450 people every Friday or whatever, right? Because that's an old job, it was communicated. If I currently do it, then communicate with 350 people every Friday, to hand out paychecks or whatever the case may be. So if it's a current job, then it's a current or present tense. If it's a past job, it's past tense.
Okay, we do have another question. Is it possible to list too many skills or responsibilities under a job description? And how do you know when you have listed enough bullet points?
Yeah, you want to, I think we may have a little bit in this, like in the types of resumes that we're going to talk about now. But if it's your current job, for instance, my current job, I have 4 very strong bullet points because I love my job. And if I wanted to find another job, I would be, looking for similarly. So there are I have 4 bullet points. If it's a past job, I don't have more than 3 because if this is really your first big girl job or big boy job, right? You probably aren't going to go beyond a page and a half. No resume should be more than 2 pages. Even for my multiple years of my 25 years of experience, my resume does not go over 2 pages. I've seen some people whose resume goes pages and pages and pages. So I think it really depends on how much experience that you have. And sometimes bullet points, people are just wanting to add for the sake of adding. But if 3 of your bullet points are really saying the same thing, condense them down. And so I don't think I would ever have more than so yeah. The government used to have a 6 page was the average for, and now they've even dropped it to they don't want a resume more than 2 pages, right? So make sure, just the rule of thumb, if you don't have a lot of experience, about a page, page and a half, and then, but no more than ever 2 pages, unless you're doing a CV for education and that sort of thing. There are Perfect. There are 2 types of resumes. One is chronological and one is functional. The chronological one is me. I have, like I said, more than 25 years of experience. So mine is going to be work focused. All of the, right? I work at an organization, I run their Houston office. Before that, I was in human resources, learning and development for a long time. Before that, I was at the city doing the learning and development, right? So mine would be work focused, right? If you have a strong work history where you've had some stable employment and stable career progression, you're going to want to use a chronological sort of resume. If you're seeking the same kind of similar role, for instance, let's say when you were 16, you were at McDonald's, when you're 17, you went to Burger King, now you're 21 and you're going to Chili's, right? You're still staying in a similar role. So you could still use a chronological resume. If you are in a more traditional role, like if you're going to be a teacher or somewhere in human services, nonprofits, most of them kind of like a chronological sort of resume because those are really work focused. For most of the folks on the call, or at least half or better of the folks on the call, you're probably going to want to do what's called a functional resume. And a functional resume is best for students because it's more skills based versus time and work based, right? This format really does look at your skills over any kind of work history or work experience that you have. For instance, if you are a project management assistant right now, and that's really, the majority of the experience that you have, that's great. It's still fine, right? Same way with customer service. You're going to start focusing on your skills versus time. And I'm going to show you a copy of a skills-based a skills-based or functional resume. In just a second, it has to pop up. And watch, today it won't pop up. Nope, today it's not popping up. I had everything all perfectly ready. And then, of course, it doesn't want to act right. But I have another one that I can show you because I want to show you the difference between a skills-based or functional resume and a chronological resume. Let me see if I can drop it in the chat. Maybe I can do that. And then you can pull it up. Functional. I have a copy. You all following this are going to get tomorrow morning a email from Jana as a thank you for coming. It's from Jana and I, but it's a thank you for coming. And it also is going to have a copy of this presentation on it. It is going to have a resume template. It is going to have an action verb cheat sheet. It's going to have what bullets, what I call before and after bullets. It's going to have your checklist, and it will also have a resume template for more experienced students as well. So you are going to absolutely get all of this, right? So as we think about a sample student resume, right? An average resume is just, it's plain. There's not a whole lot of details. And you're not, if there's 100 very plain resumes, you've got to figure out how can we take it up a notch. And we're going to take it up a notch by adding these skills and the quantifiable bullets that we talked about earlier. How do you use your action verbs? How do you quantify in numbers, right? Think about how many people you see on a shift at McDonald's. How many people do you see on a shift, even if you work at the driver's license bureau, right? Being there for a 4, 6, 8 hour shift, you probably see hundreds of people a week. And you can put that on your resume, right? Provides quality customer service and do whatever for, up to 400 people a week. That is a skills and quantifiable bullet. So now we're going to practice building your resume, right? And so I'm going to give you a step-by-step template. Keep in mind what I talked about in terms of contact information. Do not put your address on there, right? You can put the city, and especially if you're looking to relocate or something like that, but it's your name, it's your phone number, it's your email, and possibly your LinkedIn if you have one. Think about your education. You don't have to put your high school education on there if you have your HCC education on there. So it's going to say like Houston City College, expected graduation with whatever that date is. If you have a really good GPA, you can absolutely add your GPA, right? And then we're going to talk about your skills, your experience, any projects and volunteer work. And so we're gonna practice on this now. Let me see if I can. All right, so I am going to put this in the chat. Let's put this in the chat over here. All right, so resume, I'm going to send you all 2 resume templates, but this is the one that we're going to work on today because this is the one that is, well, both of them are ATS certified, but this one right here is really going to help folks as we, and once you pull it up, it may look familiar because a lot of people used this on
I have a
TikTok.
question for you. A
Yeah.
lot of people are now creating their resumes on Canva. Do you
Yes.
recommend that?
This is an interesting, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. Going back to sort of what I don't, but let me backtrack. I'm going to say I do and I don't. Canva has a very basic resume template that everyone can use. No one picks that one. They always pick the very busy ones that don't get through the ATS system. So I'll give you an example. I used to work for the city. And when I was at the city, I was in learning and development. And application, the first thing that comes in is your online application and your resume, right? And so for one job, there may be 200 resumes that come in within the first 24 hours. Now, for the city, they had to keep it open for 28 days. Why is that important? Because if 200 came in 24 hours, you can imagine how many resumes come in 28 days. So if there's 1,000 resumes that came in those 28 days, the only way to sort of sort those was through that tracking system, the ATS tracking system. So they would sort of sort it for you for the ones that were good fits and good matches, and then sort of discard the rest. um, yeah, sort of discard the rest, right? And so the hiring manager really only received the ones that were the closest match and fit. A lot of the very busy, whether, I mean, not just Canva, but those really busy resumes get caught up in the system. And people used to send me, they would email me their resumes because they'd see me on LinkedIn or whatever, and they'd be like, here's my resume. And I would see their resume and I would understand why. So Microsoft has some resume templates. If you clicked on this link, this is the Harvard College resume template. And this one was made famous on TikTok. Everybody was saying that they got their job off of the Harvard resume template, right? So I'm giving this one to you, and I'm also going to give another one to you. We're about to use this one to sort of go through. Remember, first name, last name. Even though it says campus address, I would not do the campus address. For education, fill in your education. Oh, I had stopped sharing. I apologize. Hold on. Let me share my screen. Sorry. I was just running through it and all right. So you can download this, right? We're going to make a copy of this because they, of course, want you to have a, they want you to make a copy. They don't want you to use that exact one, right? But so we're going to take this part off, and then we're going to start first name. We're not going to do the whole thing together, right? But I wanted you to see how we can use this one.
Here's another question. Are people still doing statements like why you want the job and stuff? Because I hated those.
No. And so that was one of the reasons I left that off. I'll be honest. I left it off because everybody, your objective is to get a job, right? And that's what everybody's objective is. And so employers are not looking at objectives because your objective is you're getting a job. Now, there is something called a professional summary, right? For some people at the top, they encapsulate 10 years of experience in one paragraph at the very top. I don't know how many people on the call, have that kind of experience. If you do, then you can absolutely add it. But if you don't worry about it. You can sort of use this template to rock and roll, right? So you're gonna do your email address.
Okay. There's another question. I think this is a good question because it varies. The answer varies. Would you say utilizing psychological results that list your personality type would assist towards the resume, or maybe mentioning it in conjunction with another section of the resume?
I don't know that I would use it necessarily on the resume itself. You have some choices when and where you can use that, right? Some people use that kind of information in their LinkedIn profile because guess what? Employers are looking at your LinkedIn profile, so they'll see it there. So you can always use it there. Some, how do I want to say this and be nice? Some hiring managers know what those profiles mean and they work according to that. And others have no idea. They just know they need a body in the seat and they're not going to care one way or the other. When you get into your interview process, you can absolutely, when they ask questions, tell me about yourself, right? For the, currently I do this, my last role I did this, my personality is this, right? You can always add it as a part of your answer during your interview part, but I don't know that it would be necessary to put it actually on your resume, because resumes, you have about a minute. You have a real good minute um, to get that hiring manager's attention, no more than two. If the hiring manager received 200 resumes, sifted down from, usually they don't get 200, but let's say they get 20 resumes sifted down from that 1,000 that I talked about earlier, they don't have a lot of time to read everything. So they're glancing. So they may not even notice it. You really want them to see that you have the skills and the experience and the attributes to do the job.
The only time I've ever listed it is when I knew, because higher ed loves those things, and I knew they were a Clifton Strengths University, so I put my strengths on there because I'd taken the test.
Yeah. I think you, and it's weird. United Way, when I worked at United Way, they made us take it as part of the onboarding process, and they put it on your door.
Yep.
But but it wasn't anywhere in the job description. They just did it later kind of thing and all of that kind of stuff. So I really think maybe higher education is, as Jana, if you're going into higher education, maybe that might make sense. But if you're applying at Target, I don't know that it would, kind of thing. Yeah. Is there another question? I can't tell. It looks like Yolanda's hand is up.
Yes, Yolanda, you have a question? Yolanda, do you have a question? Oh. Oh, she's fluent in
Oh,
Mandarin. She
yes.
put it down.
If you, yes, if you, two things. One, some companies ask for a resume and they want you to fill out the application. And a lot of the applications will ask you, do you speak another language, right? You can also put somewhere in your skills section that you are fluent in Mandarin or fluent in Spanish or fluent, whatever that's a skill. So that can absolutely go in the skills section. That's a great question. That's a great question. Um, as people are working through their resume, is there anything, um, and if you look at the very bottom of the resume that I just put in the chat to have you all start working on, where it talks about the skills and interests, there is a language line on there, right? So you can list your foreign languages that you know, and especially the level of fluency. I know a spoonful of Spanish. I am working on it. I've gone to school for it, but I'm not fluent enough to say that I'm fluent, right? So yeah, I speak, read, and write in Spanish. Oh, absolutely. So in that language, on that language line, absolutely put your languages in your fluency level. People love that, especially for international companies. That's really great as well. Yep. Does anybody, before I go on, is anybody having any kind of challenges with their resume that I put in the chat for them to start seeing how it flows and how it feels to them? I know for some people, some people just don't like the basic resumes, right? They don't like the black and white resumes. Somebody sent me a blue resume with bluish looking ink or uh, coloring font. And not only was it challenging to read, right? Yeah. So I know everybody wants their creativity, but we really want you to be seen and acknowledged. All right. One of the things as you're moving through your resume, right, that I put in the chat that you're going to be working on today, right? Please, 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 please. Oh, okay. As you are going through and you're creating your resume, I want you to be careful for any kind of typos and grammar errors. Let the system absolutely check for you. Have somebody else check it for you. If because sometimes you've done it and you've redone it and redone it, and it all starts looking the same to you. Always check it for typos and grammar because, a resume is your marketing tool, right? And so if someone sees some grammar mistakes, they're going to be like, you know, if attention to detail is big for them, that shows that you don't have attention to detail, right? Wrong contact information. Some people have had the same resume for the last 3 years and they never changed the number, right? From when they had that first resume 3 years ago, and now they've changed their number 2 or 3 times. So people can't reach them if the phone number is wrong or if there's a new email address. Make sure that that email address is a business forward email address, like your name, um, something like that. Not, I've seen some that were very graphic, that were very, right? You may want to, I don't mind if your email says, proud mama with the big old 69 at Gmail for your personal, but for your professional, right? Let it be your name, Felicia Young at Gmail, and let all of your resumes come to your professional, and then let all of your personal things go to your personal email. But we don't want to count you out for, your emails, right? I know starting off, your resume shouldn't be more than a page, right? Once you get a little experience under your belt, no more than 2 pages. Early career, probably a page. Late career, mid and late career, up to 2 pages. Make sure you're checking those bullet points. We don't want any vague wording. We want to use our very strong active verbs, trying to explain what you do. If you're struggling with wording it, right, we can work on chat to sort of figure out how to word something, but we don't want vague wording so that people don't even know what you did. And lastly, do not use the same resume for every single job. If you are a bartender on the weekends and you're looking for another bartender job, absolutely use the same resume. If you're a bartender on the weekend, but you're applying for an accounting job now, you don't want to use that same bartender resume. You want to create an accounting resume or a customer service resume. Even for me, I have 3 separate different resumes. So if I'm applying for a nonprofit leadership role, there's a resume. If I'm applying for HR learning and development, there's a different resume. If I'm applying for project management, there's a different resume. So resumes are never one size fits all. And a lot of times that's the reason you're not getting any feedback on your resume or getting, right? Because some people, like I said, are sending the bartender resume over to the accounting jobs. It has to match the role that you're looking for because employers only have about a minute, 2 at the most, to look at your resume. And they're not going to transfer those skills for you. It has to be hand fed to them that you have the skills to meet the role in the position. Are there any questions around any of that I said?
Not any of that, but there is one about, does not having a LinkedIn or not including it in a resume reduce your chances of your resume being reviewed?
I'm not going to say that it reduces it, but I am going to say this. We are now in the world of it's not what you know, it is who you know. We are living in a world of networking. We are living in a world of um, knowing somebody who knows somebody, right? LinkedIn allows, it's a professional networking environment. And because LinkedIn is a professional networking environment, I was just telling one of my students the other day, she had been wanting to get a job at a certain company. I'll call it Acme. She wanted a job at Acme and she had been applying. And I showed her how to use LinkedIn to sort of figure out who works there that she might also know. And then, she asked them for a coffee chat. They had coffee, right? Now, that may not be parlaying her into a role, but that person now knows that she's interested in Acme Company. And during their coffee chat, that person told her all about the company culture, the background, right? So if she does get a call, she's going to have some of that insider information she's going to be able to use when she interviews. I just saw it went away real quick, so I couldn't tell.
Okay, it says, I have been job searching for more than a year. Do I need to tailor each resume for my job searches? I've only had
I
one
would
interview.
I would do, it depends on, all right, like I have two things that come to mind. One, a lot of people, because I call it desperate times calls for desperate measures, people are applying for any and every job. And so they are applying for jobs that, one, they may not be qualified for, or two, may be far above or far beneath where they normally are. And employers don't like either one. They kind of like a sweet spot kind of employee. So it might be that you're applying for things that the company doesn't see your transferable skills for, which means we need to look at your bullet points and how those transferable skills are looking. The second thing that we might have to look at is depending upon what kind of jobs you're looking for, right? Have a resume for each one of those that you feel like you have really strong skills for. Have a customer service, if customer services, have a customer service one. We're going to build you a really strong customer service resume. If your other job that you're looking for is, let's say you're education major and right now you're looking to work at a daycare or something, then we need a daycare resume or childcare or teaching or whatever it's going to be that you're pursuing. And we're going to try and figure out the transferable skills to make those bullet points as strong as possible. So we're never going to use the same resume for every job. I think it's going to be based on what kind of jobs you're looking for. Another thing in this economy, I have been telling people to go to temporary services. And a lot of people are like, I don't want to work at a temporary service. Temporary services are going to do two things for you. One, it's going to bulk up your experience that you may or may not currently have, right? And so you're going to be able to use some of that experience and transferable skills while you're making money, because you're going to get paid while you're there. But we want to make sure that you're getting additional skills, that you're getting additional training, that you're getting money, and then sometimes companies have what's called temp to hire. And so if you go as a temporary employee, what might have started off as a 3-month assignment, they can always keep you on and make you now a permanent employee. So and Janet, can you put my email address in the chat? If you want a list of some temporary services, I can absolutely send you a list. Or you can just put temporary employment or however and your zip code into a Google search, and it's going to pop up all of them. So Kelly there's so many of them. Some of them even are for day or, for the labor section. Some of them are more professional, like Kelly, right? So there are even temporary services based on what kind of jobs you're looking for as well. Lane Staffing, I just got 2 emails from them last week. They are looking for a dental hygienist really bad. And they're looking for, it was another employee, right? So they're always job fairs, workforce solution. This is what you do. Email me. I'm going to send you. Job fairs can be sort of hit or miss, but job fairs are good if you don't currently have a job, right? If you have a job, I don't know that I would call in to work that day for a job fair because some of them are really good and some of them are not, right? But if you don't have school and you're not working currently and you have some time, go to a job fair, the networking part of it, because like I said, you can always talk to the person, especially if they're not busy. How's the company culture? How, have they been laying off lately? How, right? You can ask them all of the questions that you kind of want to know while you're at the job fair because it is a captive audience. So, yeah, so job fairs, some of them are good, some of them are not so good. And lately, because there's been so many people who are looking for work, um, there's been more people than normal there as well, right? So, yeah, I think having flexibility, my daughter, and I'm telling my age, but I already told my age, my daughter just graduated from college and she looked for employment for 6 months every day, 6 months. And so we started having to expand her search. So she expanded her search to Dallas, she expanded her search to Louisville, and her job actually came in another state. So she moved out of state in June to pursue a new role, right? So also, depending upon if you have that kind of flexibility, think about you may have to relocate for a job. Yeah. What other questions do you have?
If you want to start a job that's something that you've never done before, but you're a person who learns fast, could you add that or mention that in the interview?
Say it one more time. If it's
you're
a job
applying
you've
for,
never had,
yeah, you've never done it before.
I am going to say this coming from an employer and coming from somebody who came, right? I would, and maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but it's true, right? Most employers don't have enough time to train a 100% new hire who doesn't have any experience whatsoever. If you can get some volunteer experience, internships, that would be preferable, right? If I can say to myself, this person did 6 months as an intern, right? So they got that experience. That helps me feel better that I don't have to teach and train this person 100%, right? So think about whatever this new career, this new skill, this new endeavor is. Let's figure out a way to get you an internship, some sort of volunteer experience, something so that you don't have to tell them that you don't have any experience, right? You'll have some experience. And so you can go in talking about the internship that you did in that career change, right? Because I think that's going to be preferable, especially I think I'm going to use my daughter again, right? She had spent the last however many years, what is that, 17 years or something? She had spent the last 17 years of her life in school. She didn't really have any kind of experience. And so when employers, there's probably been 500,000 people who've been laid off this year alone. And so, as a brand new graduate with no experience, and now they have 10 resumes from somebody with 5 years and 6 years and 10 years of experience who already has a bachelor's and who already has a master's, right? Her competition was really fierce. And therefore, we talked about you got to go get that internship, right? You got to get some volunteer work. And we bulked up her resume with internships and volunteer work. Yeah. And like I said, she still didn't get the job here in Houston. She wound up getting the job in another state. So, think about your, I call it non-negotiables, because that's a part of this resume process. Is it, I just got to, I got to be within 20 minutes from my house because of transportation? Is it, I, start thinking about all of the things. What are your non-negotiables? Am I willing to relocate? Because you can absolutely put that on your resume and in your cover letter that I'm looking to relocate. As a new graduate, there are new graduate programs. So a lot of companies have new graduate programs. Look at those as well for any company that you're interested in. See what their new graduate program is and what those criterias and rules are for that. What else you got?
We have somebody with their hand raised. I can't, it's too small. Is it Tafhim? I'm sorry, I know I'm butchering your name. Do you have a question?
Hi, everyone. Yes, thank you very much for emphasizing more about like how to build and create impactful resume. Very helpful. Thank you very much. I have a question. Actually, I'm PhD in neuroscience and focused in biochemistry and teaching mostly physiology, anatomy, and physics, health sciences in Houston Community College. So I'm actually planning to and I'm preparing applications for both teaching and research roles. So I have created two separate CVs tailored to each focuses. I would really appreciate any suggestion that could be helpful for strengthening my materials and make my application more impactful. Do you have some time, or if you have any separate session for CVs, I will appreciate that to get more advice on my CV and get better idea. Any help from Miss Young?
So I am going to suggest, right? So I'm going to be the first to say this. The education piece isn't my gift, but let me say this. My sister has her PhD already, and she was leadership at a university for multiple years, and CVs are her gift. So I am willing, if you reach out to me, I'm willing to get you a conversation and audience with her so that she can possibly sort of tell you because she, of course, hired at her school and that sort of thing. She could probably tell you better than I can. I know just enough to be dangerous, but not enough to get you, I think, where you want to be. But potentially, I can still assist you getting you where you want to be.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. So would you be comfortable connecting me with her, or I should go ahead and share my CV with you if you can get the good feedback from her?
So what I'll do is if you email me, just email me, remind me who you are, and say to me, hey, Felicia, I just talked to you about my CV. You can go ahead and share it. I am going to connect you. I'm going to connect you with her by email and say, hey, Dr. Sonia, this is a student that I'm working with and so on and so forth. And it'll probably take her a couple days to look at it and that sort of thing. And she'll most likely schedule a few minutes for you all to chat.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Ms. Young.
Absolutely. All right. What other questions do you all have? All right. So just in closing, right? Am I still sharing my action verbs?
Yes.
I'm going to send these to you all. There's an action verb cheat sheet. Again, one of the things that I very often see people when I receive resumes, a lot of times people just tell me about what they felt like they did on the job, right? But they didn't provide the action verbs. They didn't, and I don't know why we're all sticklers for these things, right? But we want to know that you led efforts, that you directed efforts, that you organized and that you presented and resolved or designed. We want to know that you have done some of these things, right? Tested the new system for any kind of bugs, right? We want to know that you've done some things. Just saying worked at Subway doesn't help this. But if you say, you know, led a team of 4 Subway workers, you know, whatever the case may be, right? Those action verbs are going to be really important to employers to see. And always start your bullets with some strong action verbs. I'm going to send you this cheat sheet. It's an actual cheat sheet that I want you to use as you are building your updated resume. Most of you already have a resume. We're going back and we're updating it, right? I'm sending you a resume check sheet. You'll get it tomorrow, right? Making sure your contact information is correct and it's complete. Making sure you're using the action verbs and concise bullets, quantifying your results, checking it over, no typos, tailoring your keywords. We didn't talk about keywords, but let me say this really quick. When you see a job posting, whether it's on LinkedIn or Indeed, wherever you saw the job posting, even on the company's website, there are going to be some keywords throughout that job description. Those keywords need to also be in your resume. If they keep asking about communication skills, right, in multiple different ways, that means communication is important to them. If they're asking for somebody who is very detail oriented and accuracy is important, right? Then you know that that's going to be a key word for them. If they keep using the same or very similar terms over and over and over in that job posting, that means that that's a key word to them. And you want to make sure that you're putting some of those keywords in. If they're asking for an associate's degree, make sure that word associate's degree is somewhere, right? In your resume, or bachelor's or master's or PhD, as Tafhim had mentioned. If they're asking for project management experience and project management and timelines, all right, those sorts of things are key words. They want to see those in that resume. So whatever those keywords are, make sure you're looking for them. Read the job description 2 or 3 times to make sure that the keywords in the job description are also keywords on your resume. For instance, they may have said, led a team of, or, you know, they want people who can lead a small team of survey staff, right? If they use the word led a team or lead a team, even though yours says, change that word on your resume to lead or led. Whatever they're saying, you want to match as closely as you can. You know, yours may have said directed, theirs says led. I just change it, right? Create a copy and just change it. We want those keywords to be as close as possible because the ATS system is giving you a score based on how closely you match what they're looking for. And then, of course, save it as a PDF before sending. One, saving as a PDF saves the integrity of how it appears, right? And so sometimes when it goes through the system, it sort of changes things. But if it's in a PDF, it will go through with the formatting corrected as you wanted it to be, right? So this was my last slide, and I was just going to have you all share a new resume bullet point in the chat. So based on your experience, right? What would be a new resume bullet point that you are now going to use based on what you said or what we talked about in this? So mine might be, I probably should have pulled up my resume. Hold on. Let me see what mine looks like, and then I'm gonna share this for 30 seconds just so I can keep myself honest. All right, so this is my resume. Does it show up on your end, Jana? Because I can't tell. All right, thank you.
Yes, it
All
does.
right, so this is a copy of my resume, right? So of course I have an executive summary, key competencies, which is the skills, right? And then mine looks like this. Now, You all don't have to look like this, but you see, I still have my bullet points, right? So for me, my action verb was successfully launched, created hundreds, served, planned and coordinated, analyzed, and provided, right? And then for this one, led, large scale, comprehensive, right? So developed and delivered. If you notice, I quantify and I try and use my action verbs, right? Managed, all of the things, directed, right? So thinking about my bullet point, we'll use a really short one. Recruited hundreds of potential clientele and converted most into enrolled participants, right? So that would be one of my bullet points. What would be one of your bullet points? If you don't mind sharing, put it in the chat. And if it's perfect, we'll say, oh, that's great. If it needs a little help, and maybe that's something you can say, I need help with this bullet point. And maybe the people on the call can help us fix some of your bullet points to make them more action oriented and so on and so forth. Yeah. Give me just a second. Great. Somebody wanted to, okay. Yeah. And so I have a bunch of years, and mine is 1.5 pages. So it doesn't have to be a really long resume.
I keep one resume that has just about everything I ever did on it, and it's in chronological order. I mean, it goes back years. And then I can look at it and pick and choose to put on the one I'm creating for. But then I have one that has everything. It's like 5 pages long, but then I can use those bullet points that I have on it to create the ones for the jobs that I apply for.
Somebody just said, okay. Let me try to see if I can do this. Okay. All right. All right, so let's start with Kimberly, right? Provided general clerical support to teachers and administrators, ensuring smooth operations and effective communication on and off campus. Is there, let me start a new document. Is there anybody who has a suggestion on how we can upgrade or update her? Oh, administrative assistant. Perfect. Thank you. Yes, administrative assistant. All right. I am going to cheat, and I probably shouldn't say I'm going to cheat, but I'm about to cheat for just a second. I am going to use chat. Right. I'm applying for a new administrative, I'm going to put administrative assistant role. Administrative assistant role, and need help improving this bullet point. Act as a seasoned resume writer and improve it.
Do you need to say that to make it ATS suitable?
No, that's not the part that that holds up the ATS. The part, and I'll show you in just a second. Give me 30 seconds. It's thinking, hopefully. Come on, chat. This is really weird. Usually by now it has thought up the all right, I saw a dot. Not exactly sure why it is not. Usually I use chat a lot. If I have something to start with. Now, I don't use chat just to oh, perfect. I don't use chat to create it up front, but I do use chat to improve what I said, right? So a lot of people tell me they don't use chat. It was your words. Chat GPT just sort of improved what you said, right? They may suggest that you say collaborated with, or right, Poe a lot. So Jana uses Poe a lot. There are a lot of different sort of, Gemini, there's just a lot of them on the market, and some are a little better than others. Some use a lot, people use Claude for a lot of the research and that sort of thing. So if you know how to use chat, sent an image. Oh, let's see what it says. Supported teachers and administrators with clerical tasks, helping maintain smooth daily operations, streamline clerical processes, provided clerical support. Now, I would, because I love a good number, right? Because we want to quantify, right? How many people you worked with, right? So if we're working with school administrators and staff, right? Streamline the process of how many people work at the school, right? Because that quantifies, is it a small school where there's only 5 people, or is it a medium school where there's 50? Is there a large school where there's 150 staff? That helps the employer know what your capacity is. If you've helped 100 100 people make their lives easier with clerical support, if you are working with hundreds, if not 1,000 parents through the school, right? Quantify how many people you're working with in each part or of your role. Chat does lovely with some of that kind of stuff. And based on what kind of job you're applying for and what it says, you may find that it changes the wording a little bit based on what the role is and what it's asking for. So this could be a good starting point for your role, but then if you use chat to sort of improve your overall resume later, it may change it a little bit more. I thought I saw another question. Okay, so Sinitra, teach at least 100 college students per semester. So if this is your current role, right? I don't know if I use the word teach. Got to figure out a better word for that. But if it's a past role, there's going to be taught, right? Taught at least, or taught 100. I don't know if I would say at least, taught 100 or more, or 100 plus college students per semester, critical thinking, to increase their vocabulary. There's probably a word that encapsulates all of that. I don't know if that word is literacy, but we can sort of talk about and how to massage that to make the bullet point a little bit shorter. Mentor, yep. Thank you, Nathan. Yeah, I sort of look at that first word, that action verb, right, And then quantifying is there, but the rest of it, how can we sort of shorten it so it means the same thing, but it doesn't have so many words in it? Coordinated and executed over 50 successful, consistently receiving positive client feedback and repeated business. I like that, Nathan. Oh, yes. I am so sorry, you all. It is 2:31. I am going to hand it back over to Janet. I apologize, y'all.
Thank you for coming. And thank you, Miss Felicia Young, for coming today. I hope y'all all have a great week. Thank you. Bye, everyone.